1585, Queen Elizabeth I of England decided to establish a permanent colony in North America. The goal was twofold: to create an English foothold against Spanish influence and to open new trade routes across the Atlantic. Several preliminary survey expeditions had already explored the area, but none had succeeded in establishing a lasting settlement. In 1585, the first expedition, led by Sir Ralph Raleigh, arrived at Roanoke Island, off the coast of what is now North Carolina. The group included around 100 settlers, comprised of soldiers, artisans, and laborers. Their mission was to build shelters, establish relations with the local Croatoan Native Americans, and assess the land for agriculture and strategic purposes. Life was immediately challenging. The settlers faced harsh weather conditions, limited supplies, and unknown terrain. Conflicts arose occasionally with the Croatoan people, yet there were also moments of cooperation, particularly in trading food and learning local cultivation techniques. Despite these efforts, the first colony ultimately failed, and most settlers returned to England under Sir Raleigh's supervision. Learning from these early mistakes, a second expedition was organized in 1587, this time including 115 settlers, with men, women, and children, and led by Governor John White. Among them was White's daughter, Eleanor Dare, who was pregnant at the time. This second attempt aimed not just for a temporary outpost, but for a permanent, self-sustaining colony. On July 22, 1587, the settlers landed on Roanoke Island and began constructing shelters, planting crops, and attempting to establish a stable community amid the dense forests and unfamiliar landscape. After arriving on July 22, 1587, the settlers began the daunting task of building the colony from scratch. They constructed rudimentary shelters using local timber, cleared land for crops, and attempted to establish a sustainable source of food. The settlers faced immediate challenges: the dense forests, unfamiliar wildlife, and limited agricultural knowledge for the local soil conditions made survival a daily struggle. One of the most pressing problems was limited supplies. While Governor John White had brought some provisions, the colony relied heavily on local resources and trade with the Croatoan tribe. Initial encounters with the tribe were a mix of cooperation and tension. The settlers learned to fish, hunt, and cultivate corn under the guidance of the Croatoan people, but occasional disputes over land and resources created friction. Health concerns quickly became apparent. The summer of 1587 brought unusually hot and humid conditions, contributing to the spread of disease and heat-related illnesses among the settlers. Malnutrition, exposure to the elements, and the psychological stress of isolation took a toll on the small community. Amid these struggles, moments of hope emerged. On August 18, 1587, Eleanor Dare, the daughter of John White, gave birth to Virginia Dare, the first child of English descent born in the New World. Her birth symbolized the potential for the colony to thrive, and the settlers took it as a sign that their efforts might succeed, despite the immense challenges surrounding them. The settlers also explored the surrounding areas, mapping the terrain and establishing small outposts. These efforts were essential for communication, defense, and planning for expansion. Yet, as the weeks passed, tensions and uncertainties grew, particularly as White prepared for his return voyage to England to gather additional supplies and reinforcements. By late August 1587, the colony at Roanoke Island was still in its fragile infancy. Governor John White, realizing the settlers were running low on supplies, decided to return to England to gather provisions and reinforcements. On August 28, 1587, he departed with the promise to return quickly. White's voyage, however, would not be as swift as planned. Political tensions in England, including the build-up to the Spanish Armada in 1588, delayed the availability of ships. For nearly 3 years, White was unable to secure passage back to Roanoke. During this time, The settlers were left isolated, relying entirely on their limited resources and the occasional trade with local tribes. Meanwhile, life on the island was fraught with hardship. Food shortages became increasingly severe as the crops failed to yield sufficient harvests. The settlers faced the constant threat of harsh weather, including storms and hurricanes, which could destroy their fragile shelters and further deplete their supplies. Relations with neighboring tribes remained delicate. While some alliances were maintained, misunderstandings and hostilities posed potential dangers. John White, desperate to return, documented his struggle through letters and reports sent to England. He pleaded for reinforcements and expressed his fear for the colony's survival. Despite his repeated efforts, White could only watch from afar, powerless to assist the settlers as months turned into years. Finally, on August 18, 1590, nearly 3 years after his departure, White returned to Roanoke Island. What he found shocked him to the core. The colony was completely abandoned. Homes were standing but deserted. Personal belongings were left behind, and there were no signs of struggle or battle. The only clue was a single word carved into a post: Croatoan, suggesting a possible move or connection to the nearby Croatoan island. There were no other markings, no evidence of violence, and no traces of the 115 settlers. The disappearance of the colony remains one of history's greatest mysteries. White was unable to conduct an immediate search due to poor weather and lack of supplies, and the fate of the settlers became an enduring enigma, sparking centuries of speculation, investigation, and folklore. After John White's return to Roanoke Island in August 1590, the complete disappearance of the settlers baffled him and the English authorities. Unable to locate any of the colonists, White conducted a limited search of the island and the surrounding areas. He examined nearby rivers, forests, and the coasts of adjacent islands, including Croatoan Island, where the single carved word suggested the settlers might have relocated. However, due to worsening weather, lack of ships, and dwindling supplies, White was forced to abandon the search, leaving the fate of the colony unresolved. In the years that followed, several early investigations and reports attempted to piece together the mystery. Letters from English explorers and settlers hinted at possible sightings of Europeans among Native American tribes, leading some to speculate that the colonists had integrated with the Croatoan or other local tribes. These claims were never verified, and evidence remained anecdotal. Scholars and historians from the late 16th to the 17th century proposed various theories. 1. Assimilation with the Croatoan tribe. Many believed that the settlers, facing starvation and harsh conditions, chose to merge with local Native Americans for survival. This theory was supported by reports of light-skinned individuals seen among tribes in later decades. 2. Conflict with hostile tribes. Some suggested the colony may have been attacked by neighboring tribes. However, the lack of signs of violence or mass graves made this explanation less convincing. 3. Relocation to a different settlement. Another possibility was that the settlers attempted to move inland or to other nearby islands, carrying their supplies with them. No archaeological evidence has definitively confirmed this theory. 4. Environmental factors. Severe storms, hurricanes, or drought could have forced the settlers to abandon the colony abruptly. The preserved homes indicated no panic, but environmental hardship may have contributed to their disappearance. Despite the uncertainty, the Roanoke disappearance sparked centuries of fascination. Writers and historians documented tales of missing settlers, speculated about survival strategies, and recorded legends of European-descended people living among Native Americans. By the late 1600s, Roanoke Island had become a symbol of mysterious disappearance, representing the dangers of colonization, the unknown perils of the New World, and the fragility of early settlements. Even within official English records, references to Roanoke reflect the mystery and unease surrounding the lost colony. Some letters note the enduring questions. Did the settlers survive? Were they absorbed by tribes, or did they perish in the wilderness? The lack of definitive answers has cemented Roanoke as one of history's most enduring enigmas, a story of ambition, resilience, and ultimate mystery that continues to capture imaginations worldwide. Interest in the fate of the Roanoke colony continued well into the 19th and 20th centuries, with historians, archaeologists, and explorers attempting to uncover clues about the lost settlers. In the late 1800s, amateur archaeologists conducted rudimentary digs on Roanoke Island and surrounding areas. They found fragments of European-style tools, pottery, and building materials, suggesting a temporary settlement. But none provided conclusive evidence about the colonists' ultimate fate. During the 1930s, the National Park Service began conducting more systematic excavations, focusing on the original settlement site. Artifacts, such as English ceramics, nails, and tobacco pipes were uncovered, confirming historical records about the presence of English settlers. Despite these findings, no human remains or direct evidence of the colonists' whereabouts was found. In the late 20th century, archaeological efforts shifted to include Croatoan Island, now Hatteras Island, and the surrounding mainland. Researchers employed modern techniques, such as ground-penetrating radar, dendrochronology, and careful stratigraphic analysis. Evidence suggested some interaction between the Roanoke settlers and local Native American populations. Certain artifacts, such as fragments of combs, jewelry, and glass beads, were consistent with European design, but were discovered alongside Native American pottery, hinting at possible integration or trade. In 2015, a significant discovery reignited interest in the mystery. Archaeologists excavating at a site known as Site X on Roanoke Island uncovered a small post-hole pattern believed to be the remains of a fortification or dwelling. Analysis indicated it dated to 1587 to 1590, matching the colony's timeline. The site provided clues about the settlement's layout, defensive strategies, and adaptation to local conditions, but still offered no information about the colonists themselves. Throughout the years, DNA testing and forensic studies have been considered, including attempts to match European lineage among descendants of local tribes. Some evidence suggested that descendants of the Croatoan tribe may carry genetic markers consistent with the English settlers, but the data is inconclusive and remains a subject of ongoing study. Modern researchers also analyze historical documents, letters, and maps for overlooked clues. The writings of John White, including sketches of the colony and local flora and fauna, have been digitally preserved and studied extensively. These records provide insight into daily life, survival challenges, and the settlers' relationship with the environment and indigenous populations. Today, the story of Roanoke serves as both a historical mystery and a case study in early colonial survival. The combination of archaeology, forensic science, and historical scholarship continues to uncover fragments of the past, yet the ultimate fate of the 115 settlers remains unresolved, making Roanoke Island a timeless symbol of exploration, ambition, and human mystery. The mystery of the Roanoke colony has captivated not only historians and archaeologists, but also writers, artists, and the general public for over 4 centuries. From the 17th century onward, the disappearance of the settlers began to enter folklore and literature, inspiring a multitude of theories and creative interpretations. One of the earliest literary references comes from accounts by English historians in the 1600s who speculated that the colonists had either died from starvation or disease or merged with local tribes to survive. These reports, while secondary sources, helped to solidify Roanoke's place as the lost colony in English imagination. In the 19th century, writers like Richard Hakluyt and later novelists expanded upon the story, weaving romanticized tales of adventure, heroism, and tragedy. The colony became a symbol of the perils of early colonization and the unknown dangers of the New World. Some narratives suggested supernatural involvement, such as divine punishment or mysterious forces, reflecting the dramatic style popular at the time. By the 20th century, Roanoke had become a fixture in American popular culture. Books, radio shows, and later television series explored the mystery, often emphasizing suspense and unresolved tension. Some authors proposed that the colonists were abducted by unknown forces or vanished under supernatural circumstances, blending history with elements of folklore and speculative fiction. The story also influenced historiography and academic studies. Scholars like David Beers Quinn and Lee Miller rigorously analyzed historical documents, seeking plausible explanations grounded in evidence, yet they often acknowledged the limits of certainty. Despite scholarly restraint, the legend continued to inspire countless novels, short stories, and even comic books, each interpreting the fate of the settlers in unique and dramatic ways. Roanoke's enduring allure lies in this blend of historical fact and imaginative speculation. It serves as a narrative canvas where mystery, human courage, and historical ambiguity intersect. Modern adaptations, from documentaries to horror films, continue to capture audiences by emphasizing suspense, discovery, and the unknowable, ensuring that the lost colony remains a compelling story for generations. Over the centuries, modern scientists and historians have applied environmental analysis and forensic research to better understand the mysterious disappearance of the Roanoke settlers. These studies offer insights into the challenges the colonists faced, as well as possible explanations grounded in natural and human factors. One major line of inquiry involves climate and environmental conditions during the late 1580s. Historical climatology records suggest that the Roanoke region may have experienced unusually harsh weather, including intense heat, drought, and storms. Such conditions would have affected crop yields, leading to food shortages and increased vulnerability to disease. Archaeological evidence indicates that some planting techniques were likely unfamiliar to the settlers, further compounding the risk of malnutrition. Disease is another key factor. The settlers arrived from England carrying European pathogens to which Native Americans had no immunity, and they themselves faced illnesses present in the New World, such as malaria, dysentery, and influenza-like illnesses. Mortality from disease could have reduced the population rapidly, creating a scenario where survival required joining local tribes. Forensic studies, including the analysis of human remains and burial sites on nearby islands, have suggested potential interaction between the settlers and indigenous groups. Skeletal remains discovered in later centuries show European traits intermixed with Native American populations. Although definitive proof linking them directly to the Roanoke colonists remains elusive, this evidence lends some support to the theory that the survivors integrated with local tribes, adapting to a new lifestyle to survive. Archaeologists have also studied the material culture left behind, including tools, ceramics, and personal items. Some European-style artifacts were found intermixed with Native American materials, suggesting either trade or shared living arrangements. The pattern of artifacts indicates that if the settlers moved from the original colony site, they likely did so gradually, rather than in a panicked flight. Additionally, forensic reconstruction has been applied to map the colony's potential movements. Using ground-penetrating radar, soil analysis, and pollen studies, researchers have attempted to identify abandoned dwellings and temporary settlements in surrounding areas, particularly on Croatoan Island and the mainland. Findings suggest that some structures may have been built in strategic locations, possibly for defense or access to fresh water, but these have not yielded direct evidence of the settlers themselves. Despite these advances, the mystery persists. Modern forensic and environmental studies provide a clearer understanding of the difficult conditions and survival strategies. Yet they still cannot definitively explain the fate of the 115 colonists. The combination of environmental hardships, disease, and possible integration with local tribes remains the most plausible scenario. But the lack of direct evidence ensures that Roanoke continues to be an enigmatic chapter in history. The disappearance of the Roanoke colony has left an indelible mark on both history and popular culture. Over the centuries, it has become a symbol of mystery, human resilience, and the unknown perils of exploration. Despite centuries of research, the fate of the 115 settlers continues to fascinate historians, archaeologists, and the general public alike. Roanoke's story has inspired countless books, documentaries, films, and television series, each interpreting the mystery in its own way. From historical fiction that dramatizes daily life in the colony to speculative horror tales exploring supernatural explanations, the narrative has remained compelling for generations. The legend of Virginia Dare, the first English child born in the New World, often serves as a focal point for these retellings, symbolizing both hope and the fragility of human endeavor. Beyond literature and media, Roanoke has influenced archaeological practices and historical methodology. The efforts to uncover the colony's fate have driven advancements in excavation techniques, forensic analysis, and interdisciplinary research combining history, archaeology, anthropology, and environmental science. Scholars continue to study the settlement patterns, artifacts, and potential descendants to reconstruct the lives of the colonists and their interactions with the Native American populations. Culturally, the story of Roanoke resonates as a cautionary tale about human ambition and the risks of colonization. It highlights the challenges faced by early settlers in unfamiliar lands, the delicate balance between survival and adaptation, and the enduring impact of isolation and uncertainty. The colony's disappearance also underscores the limits of historical knowledge and the importance of evidence-based investigation, reminding us that not all mysteries are easily solved. Today, Roanoke Island is preserved as a historical site, attracting tourists, researchers, and